All right, welcome back to Narratives from Beyond with Michael Adekombi. I still have on this show today, on this episode today, Barrister Tonye Sipoto. Is a lawyer. He's a lawyer of many years. He's been in the legal profession for over 20 years. I think close to 2.5 decades now, that he's been in the legal profession. And so I'm going to be asking a few more questions. There is a question I asked before we went on the short break. You stepped into the NBA leadership in Port Harcourt. What were your takeaways? What were your memorable events or happenings, during your time as the secretary that you want to share that can inspire our viewers?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. My foray into what people refer to bar politics was in parts intentional and in part accidental.
Okay.
It's intentional in the sense that I started getting a bit worried first about what the association did with dues that we were always mandated to pay, because there was practically no way you could dodge paying your branch dues, as it was tied to paying your practicing fees, and your practicing fees was tied to your authenticity as a lawyer for that year. And this we did annually. And I asked myself, I don't quite feel that I get some measure of accountability for what we put in after how many years. And I said, okay, I'll be attending the bar meetings to listen to deliberations and to find out and get myself abreast with what the ongoings were. Then I had a situation where I wasn't even getting notices to the meeting. And I approached my predecessor and requested for my number to be included in the database. I just come back from Lagos. Probably they didn't have it, but nothing really was done. I knew that before I left Port Harcourt to Lagos, I was a bit active in attending meetings at least. So since nothing was done, I now made a deliberate effort to go outside those notices and to track the meeting days and to make sure that I attended meetings. Then from there, I came back. I was now the managing associate of one of the big law firms in this country, the Port Harcourt office. And when I talked about my dismay about what was going on, and my junior colleagues would say, sir, please, why don't you contest? So I'm not interested in the politics. I am interested in having things done. So, but eventually I got appointed into an ad hoc committee that was to review contributions that had been made and deductions that have been made from the welfare dues that were supposed to have been invested into some pension scheme. And nobody was accounting for it. And funny enough, I worked in that committee. Unknowns to me, I was working with two past leaders of our branch, and they took notice of my contribution, I would assume. And here was I minding my business one of those days, and one of them approached me and said, how about contesting for secretary of the branch? I laughed because then I just wanted to soak my head in my practice and build my practice. I'd left the firm where I was working, and I was set up my own practice. I told him, give me some time to speak to my wife and to consider it, pray about it. So I was expecting my wife to be resistant, but she said, okay, you can go on if you want to. So it was a matter of praying about it now and having a conviction. And I did pray, I had peace, and I moved on into it. So that's how that came about. And I did not approach it with that usual desperado approach some of our people take. It turned out that while they were, of all the positions that were contested for at that time, there were two people, there were always two candidates, but in my own case, as a latecomer, in quote, there were three. We were three. And so our votes came in last. The results came in last. And my colleagues, as God will have it, decided that I should serve them as Secretary of the Branch. And I did my best to the best of my recollection. And some of the events that stood out to me was when the past Chief Justice of Nigeria was, in quotes, first, I think he was suspended and then eventually sacked. The former Chief Justice of Nigeria, Onoge.
Onoge, okay. Yeah.
And it caused so much of rancor. So an emergency national executive committee meeting was called, and that committee had the statutory members, our branch chairman and branch secretaries, aside from the national ESCO. When we gathered in Abuja under the leadership of the then President Paul Osoro, SAN, and Nigerian politics played out. Those that were crying the most were those from the South, especially those from the Aqua Cross axis, from Cross River State and Akwa Ibom State, where the man
is from.
The chaps, colleagues that came from northern branches were nonchalant about it. They didn't quite see. In fact, the more we talked about shutting down the courts, the more they opposed the position. The branches from the west were more like took a middle ground position. They just watched what was happening.
They were neutral.
They were just watching. Basically came to that convention, like to watch. Very few of them spoke up. So the president, who is from Aqua Cross, but who essentially is a rounded person, having practiced for a long time in Kaduna and has his practice mainly in Lagos before other places, had to strike a balanced position. But away from the national politics, we resolved that for 2 weeks or so, we will boycott the courts, especially the Superior Court, the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal, and the High Courts. Lo and behold, we came down back home the next day and sought to enforce it. And in fact, my branch chairman gave an interview, and we proceeded to the courts to, as it were, enforce the boycott, not on the jurists or the judges, but on our colleagues. Now, in the high courts, most of our colleagues did not go to court. They stood by the boycott. But by the time we now got to the Court of Appeal, we saw our colleagues there, apparently discharging their briefs from politicians because these were political cases. So as far as they were concerned, they don't care what the NBA was saying. But this was not about the NBA. It's about a precedent that was being set, a very ugly precedent that was being set. So we got into the hallowed chambers of the Court of Appeal, respectfully took permission from the jurists, from the judges, telling them our mission and asking for the understanding for our colleagues to stop the appearance and to end the proceedings for that day. Unknown to us, they had let in thugs, party dogs, into the courtroom. I escaped bodily harm by whiskers. I would say the Lord just took me to a different path from where my branch chairman was. Because before we knew what was happening, right before the judge, these thugs representing certain parties in power descended on the chairman.
Wow.
And gave him a hiding. And he had a black eye and all that.
Was
and
assaulted.
I'll never forget that. He was severely assaulted. It took the intervention of other members of the bar to extricate and rescue the branch chairman from that fiasco.
Wow.
And at the end of it, nothing was done about it. This was
No
service
one
to
was
society.
held to account.
Nobody was held to account. Nobody till today. So that will always be there because this is something of national importance. And we believe we were standing up as the voice to the voiceless. The bench cannot go to the media to speak. It's the bar that speaks for the bench.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we had expected that the judges would have, immediately we got in there and said, okay, because one day this could happen to them. But that didn't quite happen. So that particular event, I'll probably never forget.
Okay, thank you. Let me now ask again. So what took you to politics? I think you're already, veering into that. So what took you to politics? What actually drove your passion to venture into politics? I've known you as a very principled man who will not compromise for corruption and all of those things. So what took you into politics? Having witnessed firsthand how you were standing for what is right, and then talks were unleashed on you in the court premises, and then your chairman was assaulted, and that is NBA Nigerian Bar Association chairman at the time was assaulted physically, and then yet afterwards, you now ventured into politics. So what took you to politics?
Well, I may have to, take us back a little bit.
Okay.
And we've always had this notion that as believers in the way, if we prayed long enough and hard enough, things would change. True, things would change. But it takes men on earth to take steps in line with what the will of God is. Change. They must align their thoughts, their minds, their mindset, and words and action for things to change. Scriptures for our faith state clearly that we are the salt of the earth. Once we lose our seasoning, what happens? We'll be trampled upon. That's what is scripture. We are the light of the world, not the light of the church. Some of us had constituted ourselves to be light of the church. I was a Christian leader on campus and veered into students' politics when I found that in my class set, which was something that was not done in other sets, they ensured that at least those who were on certain academic levels, comfortable enough. For instance, 3.5 in a 5 CGPA grading system, were the ones who ran as president of the law faculty association, law students association. But here we were in my time trying to lower the standards to just say this person or that person should run because they are politicians, in quotes. I lost gallantly as people settled for beer. But somehow, somebody,
infrastructure.
Yes, somebody saw through it and appointed me, or rather nominated me to represent the faculty in the student union government. Now, I was running for a faculty position. Here, I was being nominated for a university-wide. So I was nominated and then appointed. I was nominated by my faculty dean and then appointed also of the student union government, which was the judicial arm of that government. And we did handle live cases where there were pressures from government house of our state and neighboring states over issues that happened in the union, in the student union government. So that was my first foray into politics. Then I also had this experience with the MBA. And I discovered that the more we played the ostrich, the more things will not get better. We assume that everybody has bowed to bow, but the truth is that not everybody has bowed to bow. What we need in Nigeria is the critical mass of all those who have not bowed to bow to stand up and push for what is right.
When you say bow, what do you mean by that? So that people can have,
forms of evil, to all forms of nefarious standards, to all forms of misgovernance, to all forms of corruption. Not everybody has bowed to it. And I say this with conviction, not just as Christians. I've had the privilege to meet people who were not, in quote, Christians, or who didn't confess to be Christians or following any, but they're just principled people who will walk by the books and by the rules. All we seem to need in this country is a leader and the galvanizing of a critical mass to line up behind that leader. So that we all have to then bring all our candles from our little corners to form a proper bonfire. So because of this, I have been involved with a group of Christian professionals who meet regularly every month to consider political issues in Rivers State particularly, and to take a position on it, release a communique, speak to power, speak truth to power. And they've been doing that since 2006.
Oh, wow.
So, yes. So we came to the conclusion at the last election. Some of us were very much involved in the different parties. We couldn't come to a consensus to join one party.
Yeah.
We had to look for parties that aligned a bit with our values, and we joined those parties, knowing that if we are not part of political parties, we will be like men who come to an a la carte or a buffet, and we have no choice but to eat what has been served. But when you join the political party, you are able to determine what is the market list. You could go to the market to shop for the market list. You'll be part of the cooking and what quantities of seasoning and condiments are added in the cooking before it is then served. The mistake a lot of right-thinking people do is wait for political parties to unleash on them whoever they have brought out. And most of these people in the main known parties, so-called big parties, are brought by way of non-democratic processes. and it leaves you with no choice. So people, younger people need to get involved in the political parties. In fact, after NSAS, we had expected there were moves to form youth party of Nigeria, something to that effect. But I believe that didn't quite see the light of day. There's need for that critical mass to be formed for us to make a difference in the direction and the destiny of our country for generations unborn, and I dare say for the Black African.
Okay.
So these were the things, that cardinal principle that you are the light of the world and you are the salt of the earth. And this issue of politics, like it says, determines who gets what, when, and how. Politics and policies are intertwined.
They are.
So we cannot shy away from them.
Now, do you think that the younger generation are distracted by social media and all of those things that are not real? That's why, they talk a lot. When you check the social media handles from, different social media handles, you will see them, a lot of them are there, like 24/7, talking, at times abusing and all of that. Do you think they are distracted? And what should the younger generation should be doing? Because there are people who are determining their future, and they will not be in the future, but they are the one determining it. And this is across board, beyond the national politics, state politics, and all of that, even in religious setting, and all of that. Yeah. So what should young people be doing? Of course, legally following the whatever, the laid down principles and all of that. What should they be doing to effect the change they want to see beyond just talking on social media? What should they be doing?
Okay. Thank you for that question, because like you correctly pointed out, you made a very salient point. People who will not be there in that future are now presently, as it were, determining their future. For instance, when the government keeps borrowing money, what essentially you're doing is that you're mortgaging the pensions that are being paid today and the future of unborn generations. If there is no clear-cut way to engage in production that will bring about returns that are way beyond and above what you borrowed. So young people should, in my view, become a lot more interested in politics beyond wearing a face cap and a t-shirt and running around a particular politician and getting money for data and abusing themselves on social media. That's not politics. Politics is being interested, scrutinizing policies, questioning the rationale behind the policies, the formulation and the implementation of government policies, investigating the effect of these policies real time on ground. Government offices, but taking on the responsibilities, whether as NGOs, civil rights activists, or just politically conscious youth, taking cognizance and account, holding government at all levels, especially at the local government level, to account. You see how much money a particular person is making out of a particular show. You see the interest generated among a segment of Nigerian youth, if only turned towards the policies You ask a lot of people, who is your local government,
Chairman.
not even your local government, who is your council, your ward, no, your ward council? Who is your ward councillor? Some of them don't even, not about they don't know, they don't care who he is. They don't care. They forget that that person is supposed to represent them in the law-making process. He is a councillor because he sits in the local government council on your behalf. Because we all cannot sit in that council, it will be a rowdy and a raucous session. So you need to hold him accountable. You need to ask him what is happening about refuse disposal. What is happening about the drug problem in our world? What are you saying in the council about unemployment? How to generate employment for the youths? What are you doing about it? What motions have you moved? Okay, if you've not moved, these are the motion, a draft motion we are considering you should move to be made as bylaw. What are your challenges? Not to hail him, chairman, councillor, honorable, anything for the boys. He will buy you. He will buy you and buy your silence. You need to hold your councillor responsible. You need to hold your local government chairman responsible. You need to know who your House of Assembly representative, your assemblyman at the state level is, who your representative at the federal house is, and who your senators at the federal level is. These people claim to be representing you and to be your voice. And if they don't hear you, then you are living a fallacy. We need young people to be more involved and to hold their leaders more accountable in an intellectual and legal and practical manner, not waiting for crumbs to fall from the table. If not, there will be no change.
Thank you. Would you say that decadence from moral values or moral standards in society has contributed to the rot that we are seeing today in our world? Generally, not just peculiar to Nigeria, even Africa, all over the world today. Would you say, because when we were younger in the 90s and all of that, there were things that were not happening that are happening now. Would you say that, what would you say is contributing, or what are the things that, or factors that you think are contributing to, I'm trying to rephrase my question now, without boxing you, what are the factors that you think, in your opinion, are contributory to the decadence we are seeing today, and to the, a young man was killed recently in the US, and when you go on social media, you see people celebrating it, while some people are countering it and all of that. It seems that we have gotten so low. What factors do you think are contributing to all of this, and how can, as parents, how can we help our children to ensure they are aligned to the right values? As religious bodies, I'm trying to cap it up so that I can let you go. As religious bodies as well, what can religious bodies do, churches and all of that, do to ensure that we reset our society from just going down destruction or chaos? And what can, as politically conscious people, do as well? Maybe the political parties or the leaders in the corporate world, in the political world, in the NGOs, because I believe one person cannot effect a change anywhere. One person can lead, but needs a lot of people with similar values to drive the change with them. Whether in an organization, even if the CEO is saying, okay, we want this culture just like where we started from. I don't want a culture of bullying. Yes, he has set it, and there are policies in place. There are people to ensure compliance. There are people to drive So what would be your suggestions about all of this?
Yeah, I want to start by um, busting a bubble by saying what the scriptures have already said. There's nothing really new under the sun.
Mm.
Evil just recycles itself, and God has put us here to ensure that as long as there's darkness, there will always be light to show the way.
That's right.
Those that bear the light must ensure that their oil never runs dry, and that's why it's good for us to have discussions like this, where iron sharpens iron, where like it was said in Malachi, those that named the name of the Lord gathered and they ruminated over these things in their hearts, and in doing that, encouraged themselves. There are factors that we as parents today have to deal with, which our parents did not have to deal with. In their own time was the beginning of the era of globalization. Now we are in full-blown globalization, digitalization, and the Internet of Things have run over us while we're still catching our breath with the Internet of Things. Artificial intelligence
AI,
is
yes.
here. And it is here to create even more chaos, fake news, and all sorts of things. But the light lies in the heart of individuals. And you see, when like individuals of like mind and like passion meet with their little candles and light, we form a bonfire. Now, one of the things that have gone down the slide from our time to this generation was the glorification of wealth, money, regardless of
Materialism.
how you got it. Materialism. Regardless of how you got the money, it doesn't matter. It started like a joke in our young days, and that's when you started hearing about 419 chaps, and certain banks would not even open their doors to you if you were not in that class of persons. But then it was a tight click. Now it evolved to Yahoo boys.
Internet fraudsters.
Now it has become a situation where the so-called Yahoo boys are not hidden. In some cities, they're in plain sight. In plain sight. So the glorification of materialism, we need to cut down on it. We need to return to the time where, like this morning, I was going to drop my children in school, and there was this boy, literally boy, virtually, he's probably 18 or so, or 16, who we just passed at the park. He was driving some expensive car with his friend. And I chuckled to myself. I said, wow, this is their favorite new car. Because it appears that they tell themselves, we must show ourselves. Our lifestyle, our hairstyle, the cars we drive, it must be on the fast lane. And my wife said, it's his father's car. I said, it's not his father's car. These boys have learned that there's no repercussion. Time was when if you drove that kind of car back home, your father would first ask you, excuse me, did you borrow this car? Parents would caution their children, would discipline them, would bring them to the point of knowing that there is dignity of labor and a good name is better than riches. But now good name doesn't matter to a lot of people in this generation. And so we need to, whether in the religious circles, in corporate circles, in political circles, it's virtually all pervading. Get rich quick, we don't care how you get it. Until we have such a change of mind that the value of a man does not lie in what he possesses, material possession. Just like the Lord said it, we are going to continue down that slide as a society. But I don't want to leave us with on a note of hopelessness or despondency. I believe strongly there are many who have not caved in into this. All we need are platforms like this where we can come on board, encourage ourselves, know ourselves, and form a critical mass where we can then go into this fair of the marketplace or wherever we are, not as single candlelights, but as bonfires, and then make a tangible difference in our generation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Wow, there's just been a lot, and so many questions are still coming to my mind. Okay, just in few seconds. You were in the bank, in the legal team of one of the banks. If I remember, 2005, I think.
2008.
Okay, 2008.
Yeah, from 2008.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Yeah. So what did you take away from that bank, Oceanic Bank in specific? Yeah. What did you take away? Just in a few seconds.
The same challenges we are talking about. I saw a lot of them in the bank. The issue of whether what you profess. I had a boss who was Muslim. I had bosses who were not particular of the same faith. But at the helm of the affairs was somebody who was of the same faith. But sadly, all the good work that was supposedly done through that bank came to naught because certain steps were not taken to tie up the knots and the screws and the leakages in the system. And I went away thinking that, as believers, we must be very careful of the religious spirit, where it is what we do things like the Pharisees to be seen, not because we embody those values. It's better that we embody the values and live out the values than we create a facade of doing the works, but a slight puncture of that bubble, everything falls apart. Oceanic was a good place to be, but I mean, here comes a CBN governor like Pharaoh that did not know Joseph, and everything went away. It wasn't just Oceanic Bank, for those who know history.
Yeah.
At least one other bank went that way.
Major.
I
remember Intercontinental back then.
It was a good experience. Yes. It was a good experience. I met a lot of wonderful people, brethren, some of whom I'm still friends with, connected with. We had fellowship together in that organization till we were told to stop fellowshipping. We continue our fellowship outside the organization. And I learned a lot of things about corporate culture and being in corporate setting from the bank. I appreciate my experience there.
Awesome. Okay, so because of time, so what would be your parting shot to the younger generation, younger people, or young people who want to effect change in their world? I believe that every generation is built to handle the challenges and the problems facing their generation. All right, I believe they are built like that. So what will be your parting shot? What will be your advice or counsel to the young people who want to effect changes or a change, maybe starting from one change in their own generation, and any other thing you want to say as we end this episode?
Okay, thank you. I would Imagine it this way, I was speaking to my younger self.
Mm.
I would say, the just shall live by his faith.
Mm.
There's nothing more regrettable than the things that you did not dare to do. You will regret those things that you did not dare to do, that the things that you dared to do but failed at.
Mm.
So dare to stand up for the things that are right, the things that are true, the things that are noble, the things that are just, the things that are of good report.
Mm.
Just don't only meditate on those things. Stand up for those things.
Mm.
Be the standard and the banner for those things. It never comes easy.
Mm.
The young man you are referring to, Charlie Kirk, has paid the supreme price, but he wasn't the only one. Stephen paid the supreme price.
Mm.
But we remember Stephen till today. We do not remember those who cast the stone on him.
We don't even know their name. Their names.
So stones, we don't know their names,
Mm.
but we remember Stephen till today. So decide to live for something and count for something that is noble, that is right, that is true,
Mm.
that is righteous
Mm.
in your time. Don't just pass.
Mm.
Stand up for the right. Believe that you can make a change. Dare to make a change.
Mm.
And make that change to be positive change, not just for yourself, but for your generation.
Mm.
That's my part in short.
Very much. Dare to make a change. Don't just make a change for yourself. Make positive changes that would affect your generation. Stand up for something so that you won't fall for just anything. Thank you, Barrister Tonye Sipoto. Like I used to tease him as my learned colleague. And we say, no, we are not learned colleagues. We are friends. Because I'm not in the legal profession. Thank you so much for coming on Narratives and Beyond. And we appreciate your contributions. Thank you for the deep thoughts you've shared on different aspects, especially politics and the corporate world and all of that. And thank you. Hopefully, we'll be able to catch up with you one of these and bring you back so that we can delve more into certain areas we've not been able to touch on, especially your role in leadership. Beyond this, being the secretary to NBA that you mentioned the other time, you also joined the advocacy, I think, committee in NBA currently. Yeah, so those are some of the things we would have talked about, but there's no time. Wow, I didn't know that time has gone so much. Thank you, viewers. I believe that you would have gained a few things today. And until we come again to your screen, have a blessed one. Be inspired.